Okay, guys, at the Toronto Audio Fest, I mentioned an accessory, vibration control, IsoAcoustics. Did an A/B demo that had the biggest delta I've ever heard in such a demo. But such a big difference also brought up some skepticism, some healthy conversations in the comments. And so they invited me at Capital Audio Fest to redo the demo one more time, no holds barred, do whatever I wanted. This video is going to have that footage. Stay tuned. Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. I know many of you are waiting for my best of Capital Audio Fest, but I just had so much content to get out. Plus, Bob had filmed some stuff and I still haven't done my wrap up with Carl. So I got still more stuff coming for Capital Audio Fest. Stay tuned on that. And in fact, when I came back, I thought I would rest on Monday, but I ended up going to this Burning Witches concert with Stephanie, who is dating one of the opening band guitar players. So this was totally out of the blue. Maybe I'll pop up some footage. If you follow me on Instagram, you already know. But yeah, I'm still far behind and getting even farther behind. But I wanted to get out this video because it brings up parlays from the Toronto where I had that accessory that made the biggest difference I've ever heard in an A/B demo, especially for just footers on your speakers, IsoAcoustics, which I've owned in the past and definitely think that they're quality product. But I never had heard in an A/B demo such a delta from one on and off. And if you looked at the way they do this demo, it's really the best possible way. There's always going to be trade-offs unless you drop the exact same speakers in the exact same spot. But what they do with this demo is they have a switcher box that they created to switch the speaker cables for each set of speakers, and one speaker has their footers on and one speaker has their footers off, but they rotate it on the opposite channel with them off and then on, such that inherently there will be an image shift because it's when two speakers are playing, a pair is playing with it on, they're going to be slightly skewed to one side channel and also the other. So you will have a small image shift, but that's probably the best trade-off because you don't want to put both on the outside, both on the inside. In terms of the reflections would be different. That would be a more skewing way to do it than the way they are doing it. So going in, I knew that you should have an image shift, but otherwise, assuming the room's symmetrical, assuming the speaker cables are exactly the same, assuming the switcher is the same, that it should be indicative of what the true difference is. Albeit, IsoAcoustic footers do raise the level of the speakers over the spikes of these monitor audio speakers a little bit higher. So whatever the off-axis performance of that tweeter could slightly change things as well. But it's a very impressive way to do a demo for your products versus everybody else just putting marketing stuff and telling you it's better with marketing web pages and stuff. They're actually letting you hear the difference on the fly, control it. And when I was invited back, the main thing they wanted me to do is use whatever track I want. I could use pink noise again. And the main thing we wanted to dispel is any concern about there being a wiring out of phase. Because when I was in Toronto, the delta, when I go back and forth, sounded a lot like speakers being in phase versus out of phase. I wasn't hearing that image shift from left to right slightly. I was hearing image and then stick to the speakers. And that's usually what happens when things are out of phase. And so the initial skepticism is, hey, is everything in that box wired correctly? Or perhaps that pair of speakers, they had 4 speakers, 2 pairs from PS Audio, maybe internally one of them was wired out of phase and causing that. And let me tell you, that's not an indicative. If that happened, it's happened with big name speakers. The biggest names and the most expensive speakers I have seen wired internally out of phase. So that's not just a knee jerk to say, blame them for rigging the demo. And to their credit, when there was some skepticism on my part, they behaved differently than a lot of other companies do when a reviewer or somebody presents a question. They didn't just knee-jerk, get defensive, criticize me, or that kind of thing. And that's a big takeaway, guys, because let me tell you, lots of companies would love you to just come in there, hear the big difference and say, here's my money. Don't blame them. I mean, that's the type of customer every company wants. But in this hobby, there are more sophisticated audiophiles. There are people that do have acumen that says, hey, this does sound different, but there's a lot of other variety of factors that could be contributing to it, and it does sound like this. So to their credit, they reached out to me after that demo in Toronto, said, you're welcome to come in before hours at Capital Audio Fest. And I jumped at the opportunity to do that, even though I was super busy. And yes, this is props to them. And that's why, one reason why I'm going to put them on my best of show report, not to spoil what you're going to see in this video. But what I heard this time, as you'll see, is I did not hear that out of phase characteristic in terms of when the footer pair was playing, and then when it didn't, it goes to the speakers. In fact, what I heard was the shifting of the image. And frankly, the image shifted with the footer pair off to the middle, because maybe my chair wasn't exactly centered. It should shift always a little left to center both times. That's not indicative of the footers, though. You have to have that acumen of what the conditions are when you're doing this A/B demo. But here's what was interesting. When they did music and I did back and forth, it wasn't, again, as demonstrable as it was in Toronto in terms of immediately going to the speakers. So it made me think that maybe in Toronto there was some internal wiring of phase, but in any case, there was still a difference, a clear difference, and we put pink noise on again, which made it so audible in the last video in Toronto. We did pink noise here, and it still was super audible. Almost clearly, I thought the frequency response would definitely be different. But, as you'll see him explain, and I'll pop up some graphics, they do A/B demos in their testing environment where they show that even with or without footers, the frequency response does not change. But it does change the velocity of vibrations, which they contend impact some other things. I'm still a little bizarre. I just can't see how you change how pink noise sounds without changing the frequency response. But I wasn't going to have them change speaker cables. They did do the battery test to make sure this time on camera, everything disclosed to show that the speakers were in phase, okay? Now, did I have them switch speaker cables? Did I have them undo the box? No, but they went to that level in the time we had. And again, their behavior is a lot different from somebody doing something nefarious. You know, usually people get defensive or they attack if they are doing something nefarious. They don't want extra scrutiny. They invited extra scrutiny. And probably my next thing, I invited them to do a Zoom with me, their designer, where we do talk about this a little more. I want to understand what I'm hearing, why that delta is so much bigger than you would expect from just footers. I mean, it was on a carpeted floor and we weren't even playing that loud. So what is happening with the vibrations? I have shown with Norman and AV room service how spikes do almost nothing, actually worse in some cases. And they also have done tests, IsoAcoustics, that spikes are not the way you want to go. And so the delta between spikes and decoupling may be a lot greater than I even imagined from a sonic perspective. So we're going to do that Zoom. And also what we're going to do, I'm going to ask them if they wouldn't mind sending me some to put under my GR Research and Extremes. Because although I don't have two pairs of these to swap in or out, I know when I put these on, I can take in-ear measurements at my listening position with the Bach before and after. And also, I know what my system sounds like. In a foreign room, there's a lot more variables, and those speakers I didn't know, you have to do a quick A/B test. This is going to allow me to do a much more thorough A/B demo. So that's how we're going to progress with this. But as of now, I got to give these guys thumbs up for how they reacted, their transparency, and there's still a difference. And this time, I don't think there's any out of phase issues to deal with. But you be the judge. I got the entire thing filmed for you to be the judge.
Oh my God.
We're here before hours. We're gonna go to the.
People I've known for years. It's like, you? So I've been wondering, like, who are these people?
My neighbor literally broke down into a computer shop.
We're gonna do the A/B demo here.
The cashier was like, how you doing?
No, it's in here.
Why is a woman? I'll tell you.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Go on in.
Yeah, go on
All right.
in. Thank you so much. Hey, how's it going? Hey, how are you?
All right, we're going to do a follow-up demo. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
How are you? Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Hey, how are you? Good to see you. How are you? Dave, Jason. I brought my friends. Pete, y'all remember Pete? Pete came in the last demo. Pete, and then Doug has owned your products.
Yes. I have the footers.
Very nice.
Yes, we're excited to see it. Which speakers we got this
So
time?
this time we're doing monitor audio. We got the 300 silvers, the newest one, the 7G, and so we've got the same AB demo.
Okay.
We just wanted to do this for you again, and I know there was some chatter, I guess, about phase issues. So what we wanted to do with you is do the AB demo again, so you can hear it, and then we can do the battery test, just to show that
Okay.
everything's.
Yeah, some people had the same reaction I did in terms of the delta was so great,
Yeah.
especially with pink noise, that it was just hardly believable.
Yeah.
You know, so the knee-jerk reaction is it out of phase or anything going on? So,
So what we were hoping to do is, just do the same thing.
no, okay.
But
And this is
after-
different speakers, so we
Yeah,
could,
different speakers.
you know.
Different speakers. But same demo with and without, and and then afterwards we can just show that we even brought a 9-volt battery just to show that everything's
Okay.
connected. You show everything's in place.
Now, I want to showcase to people that you guys did do one thing that's pretty innovative. You put the IsoAcoustics on the outside, on the left side, and then on this side, you put it on the inside. So there is going to be a little bit of image shift, but in terms of room interactions, if you did just do outside versus inside, that would be skewing it because that's just same difference of positioning. So there always are going to be some trade-offs unless you can drop them right in the exact spot. And Harman's the only one that has one of those machines that can do that. For show conditions, I do respect this method of setting it up as the least amount of trade-offs. There will be a little bit of image shift, but let's go ahead and...
1 second.
Of course, I will want to do pink noise if we can do that again too.
Yeah, we can try to do that. Where did we find the pink noise last time? Was it just on Tidal?
Yeah.
It's on any test CD. So if you do any test CD, Audiophile, or I'll find it if you need.
Okay, so we'll play a couple songs first, and then if you want to do the pink noise, we can search it and make that happen.
I heard that you settled down, that you found a girl and you're married now. I heard that your dreams came true. Guess she gave you things I didn't give to you. Oh, friend, why are you so shy? Ain't like you to hold back or hide from the light. I hate to turn up out of the blue uninvited, but I couldn't stay away. I couldn't fight it. I had hoped you'd see my face and that you'd be reminded that for me it isn't over.
Play something,
Never mind, I'll find someone.
play something else.
Yeah. Well, they're definitely now. They're definitely not out of phase. I can guarantee that. Yeah. So Doug, I'm gonna close my eyes, okay?
Okay.
Tap me on the shoulder when it changes, because I'm gonna see in my head if I hear. So I'm gonna be totally blind. And you tap me when it changes.
trouble with that dress that's as black as my heart on this train. Trouble return, trouble with those lips that's as red as the blood in my veins.
So, yeah, I know, but it's much more subtle this time. So yeah.
Trouble.
Do you remember what song we played for you last time? So we can even play the same song again.
Field to Gold, I think, was one of them. I want to. It's all a blur now.
Self-talking.
So I want to play this song.
No moon at all, what a night. Even lightning bugs have dimmed their lights. Stars have disappeared from sight, and there's no moon at all. Don't make a sound, it's so dark. Even Fido is afraid to bark. Such a perfect chance to bark, and there's no moon at all. Should we want atmosphere for inspiration, dear? One kiss will make it clear that tonight is bright and bright moonlight might interfere. No moon at all up above. This is nothing like they told us so. Just to think we fell in love and there's no moon at all. For inspiration, dear, a one kiss will make it clear that tonight is bright and bright moonlight might interfere. No moon at all up above. This is nothing like they told us so. Just to think we fell in love and there's no moon at all. No moon at all. No moon at all. No moon at all.
So, yeah, we can pause for a second.
Yeah, sure.
So, yeah, this is much more in line with what I would expect the delta being. On that song specifically, just independent of the footers, the image shift that you expect because you're going slightly different. Actually, with the IsoAcoustics off, her Diana Krall's voice is a little further to the right, and then when it's off, it's actually in the middle. So I don't know if I'm sitting exactly centered, but that's independent of what the footers are doing. And this is much more in line with what I would expect the delta to be between the two in terms of outside of that image shift. But you might want to look at play that same song again and see if you notice her image shifts to the right, which you would expect a little bit of image shift when it's off, but then when it's on, it should be equally to the left. And so it actually is dead center with it off. So it may not, to people that don't realize the image shift part, they may attribute that to the footers, and that's not the case. But in terms of the delta from on and off, it's much more subtle than with the PS audios, for sure. And exactly what I, would more anticipate. Can we play that pink noise now?
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, for the delay getting that. I'm used to Rune.
Oh, we might need to give more volume.
It says it's playing, but okay, yeah. Okay, so that's clearly in phase. For people that listen on YouTube, you can't really get imaging, but the ball of sound, it kind of sounds like a waterfall, is right in the middle. If something is wired out of phase, and if we switch it, what'll happen with that ball in the middle is it will immediately disperse and attach to the speakers, and it'll sound really sometimes even outside the speakers. So let's go ahead and switch between the two. Okay. And then back. There's a definite tonal balance difference. This is bizarre.
Sounds out of phase to you?
Well, it's not totally dispersing, but it's not giving that. But you can hear the tonal difference pretty easily. Yeah, so sit here, Doug. So that would be quite, to hear that tonal difference. And now you're off axis, guys, and pretty obvious, huh?
Yep.
There is going to be a little bit of an image shift left and right. Like Diana Krall, you could clearly hear her move when you shift, but that's part of the demo that's not controllable just by how it's set up, and that's normal.
The difference much more.
Right.
It's just a great test to do that.
Yeah, so I guess what, on the music itself, much more subtle. This is much more dramatic. And yeah.
This is what you guys should do when you're doing
I mean,
just make so much more.
I mean, I think anybody in any part of the room can hear that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's much more subtle if you're playing music. Other than, to me, the image shift is more noticeable, and probably not in the IsoAcoustics favor in terms of center imaging, because I guess maybe I'm a little off center, but when it was off, it was dead middle, but it should never be dead middle because the speakers aren't. So I think wherever that chair may be a little off. But anyway, that's pretty impressive. When the music is playing, it's not going out of phase. Her voice is definitely in phase. In phase, she was right here, out of phase here. It should be equal off center. But other than that, that's not a part of the footers. The only other variable we have here is the image height for the tweeter, but that should not be that big from this to this.
My personal experience with the footers is it made a difference with the Lumen white speakers I had, but it did raise the speaker up, and so I just presumed that it was two things. Number one, it was decreasing some of the floor resonance, but two, it was directing some of those lower speakers right at me a little bit more than the original footer. So it definitely made a difference to the better in my system.
Yeah, I'm impressed with that difference. It's baffling, though. It's truly baffling on pink noise.
Both speakers are in phase. I mean, you can tell that.
Yes.
Pink noise, because it would have dispersed.
You know, it doesn't disperse the whole way, but it is more locked in and tonally different right here. So a footer doing all of that on pink noise, which is not creating that much resonances, to isolate from. It's truly pretty impressive. So yeah, thank you guys for doing this demo. I wanted to record everything so people can see, and really this is the type of test track that's good for you too, because then people can come in here, ask whatever questions.
Just a couple of comments for you. I think everybody understands a speaker can excite the surface, or we can have structure-borne noise that causes anomalies. But a lot of what you described is actually energy is being conducted back up into the speaker. It's like bolting a pipe to the wall. You hit with a hammer, the vibration hits the wall, is reflected back. And any anomalies that are similar in both channels, we perceive them to be in the middle.
Right.
And it collapses the soundstage. And there's kind of a mathematical midpoint that our brains processes sound into the middle. And when we can attenuate those artifacts, all of a sudden it opens up and it becomes more three-dimensional. And it creates a shift, a three-dimensional physical shift as well. Much the same as when you're panning things left and right. If there's any artifacts that collapse it brings a tail into the center. If we can attenuate that, it opens it up and gives it
So you're basically, you're addressing the vibrations created by the music itself and the cabinet.
hitting floor and coming back, which is a timing difference. It's not changing content, it's not colorizing, it's not seen in the anechoic chamber, but it's a timing difference, and it's causing that smear, that cloudiness. And acoustically in our ears, anything that's similar, we bring into the middle. We focus into the middle, so it collapses and becomes two-dimensional. So I hope what you also heard was that the soundstage became deeper, became open, more full, because it doesn't have that collapsed content in the center as well.
Definitely could tell that.
Yeah, and so in a lot of respects, it's a good idea that y'all are working with manufacturers at the OEM side, because that tonal balance is so different that if they don't budget for that and they voice it for one tonal balance versus another.
But actually, the anechoic chamber, it's not changing anything in the audio spectrum because the fundamentals are exactly the same. What we're managing is the artifacts that are coming back, those timing differences that are causing the smear. So the voicing and so on doesn't change when they're completing, when they're finishing their project. It's the way that we manage, it's the way we interact with the
For the people that are doing the OEM work with it, using your IsoAcoustics in their development,
the manufacturer.
Yeah, I'm talking about somebody that didn't use this in their development and voiced it a certain way. This does change because you're getting rid of resonances and things that they heard in their own listening room without your footers.
Well, what you're saying then is that somebody that buys the speakers and puts the ISOs on, there's actually skewing, changing the voicing.
Yes.
And that's not right. Because when we go into the anechoic chamber, there is no coloration, there is no difference, because the fundamentals are exactly the same as what's coming out of the speaker. We're talking about the boundary condition to the supporting surface and how we manage the energy that's hitting that boundary and being reflected back up inside. So when we mitigate that, we're not changing the fundamentals from the speaker. We're getting rid of those tiny differences that are coming back up that are causing the collapse of the soundstage and clouding that, changing that imaging, changing the smear, changing the accuracy of the bass.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
in terms of the actual acoustic output, there's no voicing differences, there's no acoustic differences to that. We're talking about the anomalies that come because of the boundary condition, and we're mitigating that.
well, I guess what I'm saying, I mean, maybe it's semantics. The voicing, when you hear that pink noise, you hear a drastic difference. So that's what I'm talking about, whether it's voicing, however you want to, explain that different, it's a drastic difference. So I think it's better to work with the designers at the OEM level and have that all be part of their design process, so they are hearing it when they're designing it. And now obviously after the market is another benefit, but having that benefit of the designer using the IsoAcoustics when they're developing it and hearing that when they're testing it versus you as a customer, you should still get benefits obviously, but that is probably your smart move. And I think Focal and Sonus Faber and others are using yours as part of.
Yeah, there's 50 manufacturers now that we're working with, Sonus Faber, Perlisten, PSP.
Perlisten, okay.
There's a growing list, and there's more coming on all the time. The development cycle.
Oh, I think Bay's Audio also, I went in their room yesterday, and I noticed different footers, and
Yeah.
so, yeah. So you're definitely onto something here, and this is something that I want to give props to a company that does accessories doing this, because so many people will not do the length of having to do this and the ability to switch back and forth. So obviously, it's kind of a catch-22, because when you have a big difference, people are going to wonder, what could it be? But in another respect, you have so many that have almost no difference, and they don't give you a chance to A/B, so you got to give these guys props for coming in here, doing this. Choose whatever test track you want. I think if you do pink noise, that was pretty dramatic. And so assuming, everything else, I'm pretty impressed. Did you want to do the battery test or anything like that?
It's up to you.
We're happy to show you the way the cables are. We can do the battery test. We can do whatever you want. We take a lot of care in setting up the demos. The box that we build is very carefully built too. So we know there's no phase issues, and we're happy to share that with you if you want to see it.
I don't really need it, but inevitably, people in the comments are gonna, what's gonna come. So I want to make sure I want to.
We appreciate that. No argument.
I want all my subscribers to see
Yeah,
the naysayers,
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so we just have a simple 9-volt battery. So first we're doing the left speaker first on the Gaias. So that's the walnut pair. And you got so let me turn around like this.
So when he touches it, the driver will come out.
Yeah.
Just hold it on. There it is. It's out,
out.
back, in.
Yep, okay.
And now we'll switch it to the other speakers
Yep.
and touch it again. Out and off, in.
Okay.
Good.
So you want to do the other channel?
Yep.
So this time it's on the spikes to start.
Okay.
Just hold it on. There it is. So it's out, in,
yeah.
and now I'll switch it to the ISOs. Go ahead. Out, in.
Yep, okay. All right.
Pretty straightforward. I mean, the cables are all well labeled and
Right. Well, I will say, for music-wise, the monitors were not as drastic as what I heard from the PS Audio, but there could be the flooring differences there. But it's still super dramatic on pink noise, and I'm very impressed. So, and it can't be 100% just due to the height difference of the tweeter. It's definitely doing something to enhance.
Yeah, the dispersion angle of the speakers is quite broad, and your height is a little different than mine, so
Right.
the height really.
And even off axis, you can hear it. So that's what's important. So I'm really glad you guys invited me to do this, because there were a lot of naysayers. And quite frankly, I was still skeptical because it's so dramatic.
Well, people try to resolve a gap. They try to.
Yes, right. So I wanted to make sure anybody that's watching can see what you guys do. So props for you guys for inviting me. Thank you for doing that, going through that extra level. This is major props, guys. Like I said, these aren't that expensive relative to that performance delta. So this is worth trying. I can pretty much say you should try that and see if you get the same results in your home. It'll be hard for you to buy 2 spare speakers, but and do that A/B delta. But over a long course, if you're used to the performance of your speakers on whatever outriggers or spikes or whatever, I'm a big fan of decoupling, because spikes can get the music can go right back up. I mean, spikes really do nothing. So if you have spikes, these are definitely something you should put on your list. So again, thanks a lot, guys. This was really cool. And thank you, Jack, for setting this up.
Jason,
Yeah.
thank you for coming by.
All right. Very good.